Welcome to part 2 of Lizzo's astrological chart reading. If you haven't watched part 1, go back and watch it. The link is in the description below. Without further ado, let's continue.
I don't know. Are there any timing techniques that we could use to say like when some of these issues of like being in the public versus like having a private life in the fourth house would when this would come up?
Yeah, so Lizzo is, so we could say like annual perfections, although that wouldn't happen.
I was kind of thinking Uranus and Taurus.
Uranus and Taurus definitely, and that we're like just at the beginning of some of that. I think her perfected sun would be having a Scorpio year.
Oh, so she's 30? Sorry,
Yeah.
32. Wait, is it 30? Yeah, 30 is
She just finished her 30th year, or she just finished being 30. Now she's 31. So as of April 27th, she just entered a fifth house annual perfection. So she would have just gotten through her, like the past year is when she really started like boom, 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 release the album. Because when did her album drop? I'm gonna look that up real quick.
I'm so glad you mentioned that I didn't realize she was in a Scorpio perfection. The reason that's interesting to me is because we had that Mars retrograde last year. For people who don't know about perfections, basically it's a timing technique that enables you to determine which house in your chart is the most important in that year. And it also gives you the ruler of that sign or that house as an important planet to follow by transit throughout the year. I hope I explained that succinctly and completely. But Mars went right.
So, for example, her sun, if you follow her sun when she was born, if you follow her sun when she was born, after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it would return back to where she was born. And then you go another 12 years, and that's 24. So we're saying 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Her 30, when she turns 30, her sun would be perfected or kind of like spun around to be in that Scorpio year.
Right. And that's really interesting to me because we had a Mars retrograde last year, which was like, it took a very long time for that to happen. So that would have been something that if we were like sitting down with Lizzo and like talking about her year in review, we would be like, okay, like and it was in her seventh house too. So I imagine there was like a lot of relationship drama going on around Mars retrograde, which was like late June through August of 2018.
Yeah.
So I don't keep up on like celebrity topics or anything like that, but I wonder like
I think I followed her during that Mars retrograde. So like, and also like why she wouldn't necessarily post that on her Instagram either. But I will say I've been excited to talk about Mars because that Mars in the seventh really to me is like heartbreak. Like Mars is like has a separating quality. Like you're here, I'm here, we are not together. And the seventh house is the house of relationships or the other person. So having Mars in your seventh house, I would say like probably gives you some issues. But the Aquarius part of that is very self-analytical or very analytical about what's happening. And her album is titled "'Cause I Love You," and that song "'Cause I Love You" is I'm crying 'cause I love you. And that to me is just like that Mars seventh house Aquarius to a T. And it is square to that axis of that Jupiter and Pluto pattern. And so literally it's like I'm crying because I'm uncomfortable because I want the spotlight, but I'm uncomfortable resting, and it's just like a lot. And so for her to be in a Scorpio perfection year to release an album called "'Cause I Love You," which is about heartbreak, I'm like, yes, that, and she released it on April 19th. So it would have been just before her 31st birthday, and now she's in that fifth house perfection year from her sun.
Yeah, that's so good you brought up the Mars, and especially with like the square to Pluto, that's like a very like there's an aggressiveness to that aspect. Like it has the feeling of like of a volcano getting ready to erupt, and it's not going to erupt for a while because the pressure needs to build up. But once the pressure does build up, and then it explodes. So,
and it's like you can start running, but it doesn't make any difference because
right,
you can't outrun it.
It's in fixed signs too, so it's like I'm going to hold on even tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really cool. That's really interesting, and it being a day chart. So maybe we can talk about sect a little bit.
Yeah.
So sect is the difference between a day chart and a night chart. If you're born during the day, you have certain planets that are more positive for you and certain planets that aren't. If you're born during the day, you have the most problems with Mars. And there are reasons for that. But basically Mars is like, it's almost like Mars doesn't know when to stop in a day chart, or it just keeps going. It's kind of like unrestricted. It's really brash. In a night chart, you might think of Mars as being like a little bit more courageous because it's like going out and like being a warrior in the night. But at day, it's like it's kind of just hot-headed. So in the seventh house of relationships, I kind of imagine like the self-analytical thing you said is maybe like helpful, but it's just like diving into a relationship too fast and like too hard, and like with the Pluto aspect, it's like a really intense experience. But it is like bolstering up her 10th house in a way where it's like something that she can sing about.
Yeah, and Mars aspects Jupiter pretty tightly, but also Venus by whole sign. And so it does get some help from the benefics. And what I think is interesting about that is like, if you can turn your heartbreak into like career, like cash money, like great, then it was worth it maybe. But yeah, I definitely think that the Mars being the worst planet in that seventh house, and if we talk about that timing again, you can perfect from the rising sign, and she would have also been, if you count 30 all the way around, you get to that seventh house also. So she kind of had a double Mars with that specific timing technique year.
Her Saturn so Saturn would have been her ruler for the year then, and that was like during her Saturn return, like her exact Saturn return. So that's like hard freaking work, right?
Yes, Saturn being in her sixth house of hard work. Absolutely. You see her hustling, you see her like all of a sudden like her album came out and she's like all in all these interviews, like she really did it right. That like Virgo, like paying attention to details. And now she's just like next level. Love.
Yeah, and now with Uranus going through her 10th house, like we think that she's going to blow up even more.
Well, she's in it. So if you think about annual perfection, the Scorpio perfected to Sagittarius, which is by Jupiter, and her Aquarius perfected to Pisces, which is by Jupiter. Yes. So she's just like doubly blessed right now, especially with Jupiter being in Sagittarius at like currently in 2019.
And so when Jupiter goes direct in, when is that going to be, like August, September? I think it's September. Yeah. That'll be probably something that's like really impactful for her. I mean, being in the fifth house, I don't know if she has plans to have kids or anything like that, but that would be like maybe
well, creativity.
Yeah, that's true. Creativity and children.
Or sex. Lots of great sex, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully the sex is not stopped and hopefully it's continuing. But inappropriate, sorry. Is there anything else that we wanted to go into for the chart itself, or we can talk about the synastry thing?
I just wanted to say, like, her moon is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, with all the earth.
With the earth, it's by all the sect conditions, it's rejoicing. It is, yeah, it just like doesn't have very much afflicting it. And so being in her second house, I feel like there's an indicator there that it's like you are going to become very wealthy and very successful, and also ruling the 12th house of things that are hidden or not in the spotlight, like bringing them into the spotlight. I feel like Lizzo's definitely doing that with like her whole promoting a new type of like beauty, or recognizing this beauty that was always there. So I feel like that's just like there's so many indicators in the chart for the career that she is having right now. And that would be the only other thing I kind of saw as like a good nugget.
Yeah. The only other piece of this is like a fun tidbit that I think Lizzo would probably like more than anybody else. But so Prince also has a birth chart, as do we all.
Should I put his birth chart up?
Yeah, you can. Are you able to get it? I mean, I have the birth data if you want to put it in.
Yes.
So Prince's chart is a little bit like mine. Have you seen it?
No.
Like Scorpio rising, Mars and Aries.
Ooh.
Venus and Taurus. Anyway, enough about me, Leo Moon. So we should no, stop.
Each other's charts like roast. No, just kidding.
You can do June 7th, 1958.
Oop.
At 6:17 p.m. in Minneapolis.
Yes, Minneapolis.
Yeah, wave the flag, baby.
Well, St. Paul would be my flag, but
it's for non-Minnesotans. you can call it Minneapolis.
No. So now we've got Lizzo on the inside and Prince on the outside.
And what you will notice here is that there is some interesting stuff happening with Lizzo's sun and Prince's Venus. You can see that they're actually in the same exact degree. And then if you look at Prince's sun and Lizzo's Venus, they're also very close, what we would call within orb for a conjunction in synastry. That's what we're doing right now with synastry when we're just comparing two charts, one over the other, and you can see like what the planets are doing in relation to each other between the two charts. So I thought this was really interesting because as we were talking about Venus being about like the arts and harmony and pleasure and desire, for an artist, it's a really important planet. And for everybody, the sun is a really important planet. So when I saw these two contacts happening between Prince and Lizzo, it feels like there's a real like a pull between them in terms of like artistry and how they, or I guess because Prince is no longer with us, but as far as Lizzo growing up and maybe listening to Prince's music, I'd love to talk to her about that and see like what kind of impact that made. Because there's this real affinity between like her own sense of self and how she sees herself and the kind of music that he was making, his Venus and her sun.
She had a whole Prince moment in her concert where she actually she realized that she had made a Prince song and she didn't know it until all of a sudden it was like in the album and she's like, shit, I made a Prince song. And there was some connection to, dang it, I can't remember. There was something like important about like when she wrote it or like when she was like producing it that had a connection to like, it was either an anniversary of his death or something like that. But she had a very profound connection with Prince for sure. And we see that in multiple places in this chart. Yeah. We don't know when her ascendant is, but his midheaven or career indicating planet and his Pluto, so that again, like that intensity, are in Leo. And we just think it would be great if her ascendant was there. So Lizzo, send us that real birth time. Is it near 2:34 p.m.? Let us know.
Isn't that just like, I know this isn't a video about Prince, but isn't that a crazy aspect? Pluto in midheaven in Leo, no less. It's like master of the world. Like,
yes.
It's crazy. Yes, I thought this was so fascinating, and like I think it's really interesting that you said what you said as well about her like the way she said there was like a timing thing with the way that she wrote the song and in relation to some like anniversary of him. Because things like that happen all the time in life, and I think astrology is like a really it's a way that you can look at it and see that the timing is working out that way. And that's like one of the things that I love about astrology is how you can see the synchronicities playing out, and it like reminds you that there might be some kind of like reason for things or something tying things together.
Well said.
Thank you. Yeah, Prince's chart is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay. He's also Gemini sun, like me.
That's you.
Second house Saturn.
Also like you.
Yeah.
So maybe Prince is just like, maybe Prince reincarnated in both of us. Like,
yes.
So I got the Scorpio rising. You got the second house Saturn. That's how that works, right?
I don't want the second house Saturn. At least my Saturn's in Capricorn.
Yeah, it's almost like Prince didn't make money or something like that. Right? Where's Jupiter though? We're just gonna start analyzing this chart, I guess. Well, it's in a direct sextile with reception, and
we should do a whole video on Prince.
I think that's what's coming out of this. We just got to do a Prince video. We've got more of these coming. I can tell. I think this was successful. So.
Also, if any of the viewers want a specific celebrity, we can't guarantee it because we have to have their birth data. But please, please, please leave a comment below so you can let us know which celebrity you'd like us to do. Because I would love to do more videos like this. It's like you said, like this is where astrology comes to life when you're talking about a real story, a real person. Not to say that like horoscopes aren't real. They apply to everyone. And so it's like you have to kind of be general, and when you have these like specific placements to compare things to, that's when it gets juicy. And like I love the dynamic that you and I have where we can actually like see different things and kind of have a conversation, and it's not just me sitting alone in my apartment.
Yeah, it's really
recording videos
to talk to astrology about with, because for anybody who like gets super into astrology, like it just doesn't happen. So I'm so glad that we can have this, and we're going to keep this line of communication and fun video making open. And I'm looking forward to the future.
Sweet. What a great sign off.
Bye.
Subscribe to all the things, and if you want to follow Drew, Fortunate Fire, you are going to be able to find the link for his Instagram in the description below as well.
Bye.
Yes, and just stay tuned. There will be more from both of us. And like this video, subscribe if you want to see that. So, okay, bye.
Bye.
Catch you on the next cycle.